Ecclesiastes 7. A good name is better than good oil, and the day of death than the day of birth. It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to a house of feasting, for that is the end of all man, and the living should take it to heart. Grief is better than gaiety, for through a sad countenance the heart is improved. The thoughts of the wise turn to the house of mourning, but the thoughts of fools to the house of feasting. It is better to listen to the rebuke of a wise man than for one to listen to the song of fools. For like crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. And this too is futility. For oppression makes the wise foolish, and a gift corrupts the heart. The end of a matter is better than its beginning. Patience is better than pride. Do not be hastily upset, for anger lingers in the bosom of fools. Do not say, "How was it that former times were better than these?" For that is not a question prompted by wisdom. Wisdom is good with an inheritance, and a boon to those who see the sun. For to sit in the shelter of wisdom is to sit in the shelter of money. And the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of its possessors. Observe God's doing, for who can straighten what he has twisted? Be pleased when things go well, but in a time of misfortune reflect. God has made the one as well as the other, so that man should find nothing after him. I have seen everything during my futile existence. Sometimes a righteous man perishes for all his righteousness, and sometimes a wicked man endures for all his wickedness. Do not be overly righteous or excessively wise. Why be left desolate? Be not overly wicked, nor be a fool. Why die before your time? It is best to grasp the one and not let go of the other. He who fears God performs them all. Wisdom strengthens the wise more than 10 rulers who are in the city. For there is no man so wholly righteous on earth that he always does good and never sins. Moreover, pay no attention to everything men say, lest you hear your own servant disparaging you. For your own conscience knows that many times you yourself disparaged others. All this I tested with wisdom. I thought I could become wise, but it is beyond me. What existed is elusive and so very deep. Who can fathom it? So I turned my attention to study and probe and seek wisdom and reckoning, and to know the wickedness of folly and the foolishness which is madness. And I have discovered more bitter than death the woman who is snares, whose heart is nets, whose arms are chains. He who is pleasing to God escapes her, but the sinner is caught by her. See, this is what I found, said Evangelist, adding one to another to reach a conclusion, which yet my soul seeks, but I have not found. 1 man in 1,000 I have found, but 1 woman among them I have not found. But see this, I did find. God has made man simple, but they sought many intrigues. Ecclesiastes 8. Who is like the wise man, and who knows what things mean? A man's wisdom lights up his face, and the boldness of his face is transformed. I counsel you, obey the king's command, and that in the manner of an oath of God. Do not hasten to leave his presence. Do not persist in an evil thing, for he can do whatever he pleases. Since a king's word is law, who would dare say to him, "What are you doing?" He who obeys the commandment will know no evil, and a wise mind will know time and justice. For everything has its time and justice, for man's evil overwhelms him. Indeed, he does not know what will happen, for when it happens, who will tell him? Man is powerless over the spirit, to restrain the spirit, nor is there authority over the day of death, nor discharge in war, and wickedness cannot save the wrongdoer. All this I have seen, and I applied my mind to every deed that is done under the sun. There is a time when 1 man rules over another to his detriment. And then I saw the wicked buried and newly come, while those who had done right were gone from the holy place and were forgotten in the city. This too is futility, because the sentence for wrongdoing is not executed quickly. That is why men are encouraged to do evil, because a sinner does what is wrong 100 times, and he is patient with him. Yet nevertheless, I am aware that it will be well with those who fear God, those that show fear before him, and that it will not be well with the wicked, and he will not long endure, like a shadow, because he does not fear God. There is a futility that takes place on earth. Sometimes there are righteous men who are treated as if they had done the deeds of the wicked, and there are wicked men who are treated as if they had done the deeds of the righteous. I declared, this too is vanity. So I praised enjoyment. For man has no other goal under the sun but to eat, drink, and be joyful. And this will accompany him in his toil during the days of his life, which God has given him beneath the sun. When I set my mind to know wisdom and to observe the activity which takes place on earth, for even day or night its eyes see no sleep, and I perceived all the work of God. Indeed, man cannot fathom the events that occur under the sun, inasmuch as man tries strenuously to search, but cannot fathom it. And even though a wise man should presume to know, he cannot fathom it. Ecclesiastes 9. For all this I noted, and I sought to ascertain all this, that the righteous and the wise together with their actions are in the hand of God. Whether love or hate, man does not know. All precede them. All things come alike to all. The same fate awaits the righteous and the wicked, the good and the clean and the unclean, the one who brings a sacrifice and the one who does not. As is the good man, so is the sinner. As is the one who swears, so is the one who fears an oath. This is an evil about all things that go on under the sun, that the same fate awaits them all. Therefore, the heart of man is full of evil, and madness is in their heart while they live, and after that, they go to the dead. For he who is attached to all the living has hope, a live dog being better than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing at all. There is no more reward for them. Their memory is forgotten. Their love, their hate, their jealousy have already perished. Nor will they ever again have a share in whatever is done beneath the sun. Go, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a glad heart. For God has already approved your deeds. Let your garments always be white, and your head never lack oil. Enjoy life with the wife you love through all the fleeting days of your life that he has granted you beneath the sun, all of your futile existence. For that is your compensation in life and in your toil which you exert beneath the sun. Whatever you are able to do with your might, do it. For there is neither doing, nor reckoning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave where you're going. Once more I saw under the sun that the race is not won by the swift, nor the battle by the strong, nor does bread come to the wise, riches to the intelligent, nor favor to the learned. But time and death will happen to them all. For man does not even know his hour. Like fish caught in a fatal net, like birds seized in a snare, so are men caught in the moment of disaster when it falls upon them suddenly. This too have I observed about wisdom beneath the sun, and it affected me profoundly. There was a small town with only a few inhabitants, and a mighty king came upon it and surrounded it, and built great siege works over it. Present in the city was a poor, wise man who by his wisdom saved the town. Yet no one remembered that poor man. So I said, wisdom is better than might, although a poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words go unheeded. The gentle words of the wise are heard above the shouts of a king over fools. And wisdom is better than weapons. But a single rogue can ruin a great deal of good. Ecclesiastes 10. Dead flies putrefy the perfumer's oil. A little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. A wise man's mind tends to his right, while a fool's mind tends to his left. Even on the road as the fool walks, he lacks sense, and proclaims to all that he is a fool. If the anger of a ruler flares up against you, do not leave your place, for deference appeases great offenses. There is an evil which I have observed beneath the sun, as if it were an error proceeding from the ruler. Folly is placed on lofty heights, while rich men sit in low places. I have seen slaves on horses, and nobles walking on foot like slaves. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and he who breaks down a wall will be bitten by a snake. He who moves about stones will be hurt by them. He who splits logs will be endangered by them. If an axe is blunt and one has not honed the edge, nevertheless, it strengthens the soldiers. Wisdom is a more powerful skill. If the snake bites because it was not charmed, then there's no advantage to the charmer's art. The words of a wise man's mouth win favor, but a fool's lips devour him. His talk begins as foolishness and ends as evil madness. The fool prattles on, but man does not know what will be, and who can tell him what will happen after him? The toil of fools exhausts them, as one who does not know the way to town. Woe to you, O land, whose king acts as an adolescent, and whose ministers dine in the morning. Happy are you, O land, whose king is a man of dignity, and whose ministers dine at the proper time, in strength and not in drunkenness. Through slothfulness the ceiling sags, and through idleness of the hands the house leaks. A feast is made for laughter, and wine gladdens life, but money answers everything. Even in your thoughts do not curse a king, and in your bedchamber do not curse the rich, for a bird of the skies may carry the sound, and some winged creature may betray the matter. Ecclesiastes 11. Send your bread upon the waters, for after many days you will find it. Distribute portions to 7, or to even 8, for you never know what calamity will strike the land. If the clouds are filled, they will pour down rain on the earth. If a tree falls down in the south or in the north, wherever the tree falls, there it remains. One who watches the wind will never sow, and one who keeps his eye on the clouds will never reap. Just as you do not know the way of the wind, nor the nature of the embryo in a pregnant stomach, so can you never know the work of God who makes everything. In the morning, sow your seed, and in the evening, do not be idle. For you cannot know which will succeed, this or that, or whether both are equally good. Sweet is the light, and it is good for the eyes to behold the sun. Even if a man lives many years, let him rejoice in all of them. But let him remember that the days of darkness will be many. All that comes is futility. Rejoice, young man, in your childhood. Let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Follow the path of your heart and the sight of your eyes. But be aware that for all these things God will call you to account. Rather, banish anger from your heart and remove evil from your flesh, for childhood and youth are futile. Ecclesiastes 12. So remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come, and those years arrive of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun, the light, and the moon, and the stars grow dark, and the clouds return after the rain, in the day when the guards of the house will tremble, and the powerful men will stoop, and the grinders are idle because they are few, and the grazers through windows are dimmed, when the doors in the street are shut, when the sound of the grinding is low, when one rises up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of song grow dim, when they even fear a height and terror in the road, and the almond tree blossoms, and the grasshopper becomes a burden, and the desire fails, so man goes to his eternal home, while the mourners go about the streets. Before the silver cord snaps, and the golden bowl is shattered, and the pitcher is broken at the fountain, and the wheel is smashed at the pit, thus the dust returns to the ground, as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Futility of futilities, said Koheles. All is futile. And besides being wise, Koheles also imparted knowledge to the people. He listened and sought out and arranged many proverbs. Koheles sought to find words of delight and words of truth recorded properly. The words of the wise are like goads, and the nails well driven are the sayings of the masters of collections, coming from one shepherd. Beyond these, my son, beware. The making of many books is without limit, and much study is weariness of the flesh. The sum of the matter, when all has been considered, fear God and keep his commandments, for that is man's whole duty. For God will judge every deed, even everything hidden, whether good or evil. The sum of this matter, when all has been considered, fear God and keep his commandments, for that is man's whole duty. Okay then, so what do we have here with this writing? Yes, it makes great sense. But for a person to not engage in a pursuit or to abandon an ambition, this is a challenge. How do you go about getting to the part where you can say, I don't care, I am enjoying? As you know, I am on sabbatical and I am putting together this NQE thing, and I eat and I drink and I am happy. Man, and I work every day to try to make sure I sort of get the anger and the evil sort of in check. Yet, I am excited to see what comes once this NQE project is over. So I don't find myself oftentimes just super content and happy just here. I am in pursuit to complete this study so that I can see what happens next. So the question is Solomon telling us to not do that, to not have an ambition and to not pursue something, but instead to just be happy where you are? Is this the message? No, I don't think that's what he's saying here at all. In fact, he says the opposite. He says, go for it. Pursue what is in your heart, rock and roll. Here's the deal. You are going to have to account for it later. That's it. And look, the end of a matter is totally better than the beginning of a matter. And let's get real. Money does solve all of the problems. So what is it that he is telling us to do? We are to pursue with our hearts, and we are to go at it while doing this thing, recognizing that maybe we're in some sort of a sandbox, and at some point, our mom and dad is going to come and say, little Billy, it's time to go. And we're going to get up out of the sandbox and we're going to leave all of our toys here. It doesn't matter that we just built the castle. We're leaving because mom promised us Chick-fil-A. In the same way, Solomon is telling us the ambition that's building that sandcastle, it doesn't mean anything. So don't go killing everybody while you're doing it, but pursue whatever you want. Now he says, make sure that you have God in your heart. You understand who God is, that the time that you have for these pursuits, it's coming to an end. You're going to die. Some say this is to love God. Solomon says, no, fear God. This means you need to recognize that you're speaking to a God that has power, and that there has been a documented history of this God flexing this power, oftentimes for the benefit, even if it looks like chastisement, for this group of people. And it's miraculous, and it's supernatural, and it's impossible to believe unless you see it with your eyeballs. But that is what it is. And Solomon is saying, you should fear a power like that. We obey so that we avoid punishment. This is a rule. We understand this rule. And this is what Solomon is telling us to do, obey, to avoid the punishment, because it's so much better to not receive punishment because you have been disobedient. It's way better to receive favor because you have been obedient. Now, this makes an awful lot of sense. So the takeaway, we need to understand what it is that we are supposed to be doing here, how we are supposed to be treating each other, and all of the things that matter while we're in this sandbox. But we'll do so knowing that we are actually going to be getting out of this sandbox. So maybe we put less value on the little sand castles and the little plastic shovels. We just, we're going to leave that here. Can't take it with us. Chick-fil-A won't let you in. I hope you enjoyed this book of thought. God bless you. The NQE is out.